escape system. How exactly is that activated? Is it autonomous? Is it manually activated?
Definitely. So for this system to work as designed, you have to remember that the vehicle could be flying at hundreds or thousands of miles an hour through the lower atmosphere. So it's really important that it's extremely fast and highly reliable with very low chance of false positives. The launch escape system fundamentally is set to look at a set of pre-programmed criteria which are on board the vehicle. Dragon and Falcon are looking at high rate telemetry, looking for abnormal vehicle dynamics, loss of communication between critical systems, or manual commanding. Our launch director and chief engineer, who you've heard a lot from today, are capable of sending a manual command to Dragon to initiate a launch escape. And Bob and Doug are also always able to actuate the launch escape handle and initiate a launch escape themselves as well. Now that the system is armed, all of this is currently active on the vehicle.
Wow, it sounds like there's a lot that goes into it. And we did have an in-flight abort test earlier this year to test this out. Can you tell us what we learned from that test?
Definitely. It was possibly the most flight-like test of an orbital class booster in history. It was a fully flight-like test using a full Falcon 9 rocket, which we had to knowingly destroy in order to get this fully integrated system. For folks who didn't get a chance to see it, the vehicle followed a normal crew launch trajectory. About a minute and a half into flight, we had Dragon autonomously trigger the launch escape system based on a reconfiguration of those triggers I was just talking about.
For propellant load.
Thankfully, we had we continued through flight, had a successful parachute deployment and splashdown, and we did see Falcon rather spectacularly blow up about 10 seconds after separation. It's important to recognize that all of that happens from command to actual separation of the vehicle in under half a second.
Wow, yeah, that sounds amazing. Thank you so much, Nick, for joining us and talking through those details with us. Enjoy the launch today. So we're going to send it back to KSC with Lauren.
Thank you, Jesse. We are about a minute and a half away from propellant load. At T-minus 35 minutes, we should hear the call out on the nets that propellant load has started. So that's about a minute and 13 seconds away.
Hey, Marie and Lauren, I am getting goosebumps over here. This is an exciting moment. When I was sitting in the vehicle, when we retracted everything, when all the prop was getting loaded up, I was just going through my crew notebook. I was thinking about, what my first step would be if there was a malfunction, because usually everything goes nominally when you fly to space, but you have to think about the things that you have to take care of, the first steps you have to take care of. And on my mission, I was calling out the abort calls, like if we had lost an engine, where would we go next, when the different abort calls around the country and around the world. So I think that's what those guys are probably thinking about now, and just really getting ready for this mission to go off.
Absolutely, and we're just now about 20 seconds from when we expect propellant loading to start. Again, that's fueling of the rocket.
All right, we're getting close. We should hear that call out any second now on the nets. So let's listen in.
Propellant load has started.
Fantastic. So prop load has started. We've started loading liquid oxygen on stage 1 and stage 2. And yeah, liquid oxygen and RP1, which is our rocket grade kerosene. So now that we are 34 minutes and 42 seconds away from the first launch of astronauts into orbit from American soil since 2011, we know that the launch escape system is armed, which happened just before. Just a few miles down the road, it will be called Dragon.
All right, guys, you see we are live and waiting on the SpaceX rocket to launch. The launch is going to take place about 4:30, and to fill in the time, first of all, thank you for joining me in my virtual studio here at my home. We're going to play some quizzes. We're going to play some quizzes on to help us review the federal bureaucracy. As you probably know, NASA is one of our federal agencies, so I thought it would be a good opportunity to review before the launch. And the launch is scheduled to go, last I heard, so we're going to get right into it. Make sure you shout out on the chat so I know you're here. I am dealing with a little bit of a delay, so if I don't respond right away, that'll be the issue.
Escape tower would have to jettison itself from the vehicle. If it was used, it would be used to lift the vehicle off of the rocket. Well, Dragon is a little bit different in that its escape system is actually integrated into the vehicle, and that's great for a couple of reasons. One less thing you have to jettison on a nominal flight.
And use the chat to
unless they're used, and hopefully they never have to be. And yeah, I mean, the other thing that offers you is the ability to escape from
this, and hopefully the launch will be a go. And if we need to, we'll cut away from the game to watch the launch. So let's.
New era, much safer design.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for walking us through that, Lauren. Again, the launch escape system is armed. That protects Bob and Doug.
Whoops! I just made my first error. Give me a chance to go back.
That is such a crucial safety capability, and so now
Challenge friends.
For an operational update with John.
Thanks, Marie. We are counting down those final minutes. Everything is still looking good on the Falcon 9 and the Dragon vehicles for an on-time launch, but weather is...
Alright, so I want to challenge.
We're keeping our ears open.
Alright, there we go. So if you want to play, if you've got another device that you want to play with, join myquiz.com, enter the code 27361147. I'll give you guys a chance to log on to that. You can play on your phone if you're watching me on a computer. Hey Leah, glad you could join me.
So we need an ignition source to complete the fire triangle. For this, Falcon 9 uses a fluid called T-tail. You might see that just before first stage ignition, or maybe when you're in the second stage ignition. You get a green-colored flame as the T-tail comes out into the oxygen, and that ignites.
So I'll give you guys
right before the rocket takes
looks like we've got some people logging on.
Now, currently in the fueling,
There we go.
fuel is about 10% full on the first stage. That's the bottom 2/3 of the stack of the vehicle.
Shout out to Ms. Gilmore.
The first stage is that long white cylinder at the bottom, plus that black cylinder called the interstage. That's the entire first stage that you're loading with blocks.
So if you're not going to play
That's the part that comes back.
yourself as we do this, then I'm going to read through each question. You guys type in the chat box what answers you would like me to enter,
Is also
and we'll play as a team.
RP1. That's about 8% full right now. We are loading liquid oxygen on the first stage. The second stage liquid oxygen load will begin at T-minus 16 and a half minutes if the weather cooperates. So launch loading will then continue on both the first and
Alright,
second stage
so
for the last few minutes of the countdown. Helium loading is
let me go. Let's check in on things.
as the propellant is being pulled out
Alright, so we are T-minus 30 minutes, it looks like. Counting down. The launch looks like it's still a go.
loaded into the
The skies are clear. So we'll check back in with the launch after we play a little bit.
So as part of the training, the sounds of the propellant loading were played back to acclimate the crew to what they're experiencing now. I'm stopping, I'm listening to some discussion on one of the back decks,
Alright, so let's
where we are.
get started.
Bacteria. We're doing some other weather data right now, trying to see whether or not the conditions are go.
Alright, question 1. What title do most leaders or heads of the executive departments have? So the heads of the executive departments, what are they called? Are they called the chairman, secretary, ranking members, attorney general? What title do most of them have? So type your answers in the chat box.
They're ready to support with no problems. But in the weather, that's the one that's going to be bad, and we're going to continue to listen. And as a reminder, today we have an instantaneous launch time. So at this point, if we hear a halt for any reason, we're going to have to stand down and target our back.
I see Chairman.
On May 30th.
Any other guesses?
For Demo 2, Bob and Doug's flight to station will take about 19 hours, and their journey is fairly similar to the trip our cargo dragon makes back and forth to the international.
All right, let's go with Chairman. Oh, it was Secretary. Sorry about that. So yeah. So Secretary was your correct answer. Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, etc. All right, NASA is considered what type of federal agency? Government corporation, an independent agency, a regulatory agency, or a law enforcement agency?
Once we hit T0 and a successful launch occurs, we will watch Falcon 9 and Dragon make their ascent until Falcon 9 and first and second stages separate and send Dragon on its way to the space station.
I see Government Corporation by Miss Gilmore.
Execute a series of burns that are going to gradually raise its orbit to align more closely with the International Space Station. You're seeing some of that track in the animation on your screen right now. After doing enough of these burns,
So we're going to go with Government Corporation.
sounds like we're going to get a weather update real quick for the crew.
Go ahead, Spacer.
Any other votes?
Currently just evaluating constraint rule, which looks at
A, Government Corporation.
we expect to have an update at about T-minus 20
All right, I got 2 votes, so we're going to go for it.
there and whether we will be able to continue.
Oh, it is an independent agency. And basically what that means is that it is not directly related to any particular department of the executive branch. It's independent by itself, does its own thing, even though there is some influence from the president over it. Government corporations are actually those agencies like Amtrak where people pay for the services, but it is provided by the government.
In this case, with the field mills, about 15 minutes. So they have about 60 minutes and 30 seconds to really make sure that we're going to have enough time for that.
All right, which federal agency develops and enforces anti-pollution policies? So the EPA, CIA, FBI, or IRS?
And a very exciting countdown with 6 minutes to figure out if we are launching today. But targeting back to what we were talking about, next Dragon will make its approach and actually dock with the space.
I see A or B.
Process from what we've seen with Dragon cargo deliveries in the past.
Any other votes?
It's called berthing. Now, berthing
EPA.
allows the spacecraft to approach the station and then stop so a crew member can maneuver the station's robotic arm to capture the spacecraft. Docking on this version of Dragon can be done autonomously with no crew aboard the station. It's typically a faster process, both when arriving and leaving, but it does still require pinpoint accuracy.
All right, let's go with Ms. Gilmore's answer. EPA is correct. The Environmental Protection Agency is in charge of developing anti-pollution policy and enforcing that. What term best describes awarding government jobs to family members? What term are we talking about there?
120 days docked before preparing to return home. Following successful completion of Dragon's test objectives and cargo loading operations, the crew will close out the cabin, perform final system checks, and configure the vehicle for undocking. Once the automated undocking sequence is complete, Dragon will complete 2 departure burns using its Draco engines, pushing it away from the space station.
Yeah, this delay is really bothering me.
Once the station is ready for its trip home, and that'll have deorbit entry and landing.
Maybe B. I hear B.
If you're looking at this
Nepotism.
it might look like we're playing the one we played originally.
Now, Ms. Gilmore, you are an English teacher, so that's not really fair.
All of the operations following the final departure maneuver will include things like trunk separation, closing that nose cone again, executing an deorbit burn once they're inside the atmosphere, deploying drogue and then main parachutes flashing down off the Florida coast, at which teams will move in, get Bob and Doug up.
Let's see. While we're waiting for the lag, I'm gonna go. Let's jump back and check back in on our live stream.
Go down now to the team at Kennedy.
23 minutes and counting.
Dan, if you're just joining us, we are now T-minus 23 minutes and 48 seconds from the first launch of
This is really exciting because I remember. Well, some of you may remember, if you're as old as I am, the Challenger explosion. I remember watching that live when I was a kid. Hopefully, fingers crossed, this thing goes off well without a hitch.
86% of those of you watching answered that you would go to
So,
A regular civil, just a regular person going off to space on a SpaceX type rocket. So I think that's why the numbers are so high.
Yeah, and we are really thrilled.
it is nepotism. Nepotism. Oh, we got in a power up. 50-50. Make half the incorrect options appear. So if you use the power up, just let me know. Let me know in the chat box, and we'll use our 50-50 power up. Next question. Who are the bureaucrats in the federal bureaucracy? So what are bureaucrats? What do we mean by bureaucrats?
We always know that you can have any types of delays, fuel, prop delays, all kinds of things that can happen. But we've trained
The secretaries of each department, the undersecretaries of the departments, the civil service employees, or all of the above. Who are the bureaucrats? Red. So we got to vote for all of the above.
But no one can do anything about it. And it is this interesting thing, just succumbing to Mother Earth. She's going to tell us if we can go or not today.
Well, if it happens, I mean, look at it this way. Bob and Doug got
Ah,
really great.
Leah says C. Civil service employees. Let's see who's right.
So again,
I need a tie-breaking vote.
2 minutes now from
B.
that weather update.
So now we've got 3 different answers.
To Bob and Doug, and we will quiet down so we can listen in for that, because I know we can't.
Let's
wait
see
for
what
the
Leah
answers,
says.
and, those of you watching,
Oh, Leah's correct. Civil service employees are known as bureaucrats. All right, what type of administrative system was used prior to the establishment of meritocracy in the federal bureaucracy? So before we used a merit-based system, how were federal jobs awarded to people? What do we call that? And for this one, it says select all that apply, so it could be more than one answer.
come down somewhere in the ocean, they need to consider what the weather's like out there, because recovery teams have to go out and get them in a situation like that. So
Looks like we are 20 minutes counting down until launch.
with this flight, but with every human space flight we've had in the past,
So we got to vote for the spoil system.
scrub, because you do have so much criteria that you have to.
Shout out to Miss Pigeon.
And we're going to listen in now. We're just seconds away from the weather update.
So we got spoils and patronage. Any objections to that? All right, well, let's go for it.
That is liquid.
Oh, we are correct. Very good, Miss Gilmore.
Standing by.
All right, next question. Oh, we got some action up on the. Let's check out the live feed. We got some steam or some smoke going on. I think we're still about 20 minutes away, less than 20 minutes away from the launch. This is exciting stuff, I tell you.
Some of them are starting to count down, but we still have one above 2,000. So if that gets below...
Department.
And that didn't sound great right there. That was the weather net going out, but we're still standing by for a final decision.
Got a vote for 10.
And we're going to continue to listen in for an update, but in the meantime, we're going to go over to John Innsbrucker at SpaceX headquarters in California. John?
And Dragon SpaceX on weather. We're still
T-minus 18 minutes and counting.
LD is
We are still red on weather.
Expect an update from LD.
We're waiting in about another minute for one final check with weather. We're going to check a team after 17 minutes.
Activate it. Oh, well, that didn't help. 10 or 15, so we need a tie-breaking vote. So I'm just going to wait here until we get a tie-breaking vote.
Violate
10 or 15? Which is it? 10 or 15? I don't know. I'm waiting on you guys. Oh.
Launch auto sequence. Launch abort has started.
Dragon SpaceX.
All right, well, let's just move on. Let's go with 15. 15 is correct. There are 15 departments in the federal bureaucracy. Which department is the most recently created? I don't know if that's right grammar or not. But, which department is the most recently created? Is it the Department of State, Department of Education, Department of the Treasury, or the Department of Homeland Security? The most recent department that has been created. I'll give you a hint. It was created, I believe, in 2002. Ms. Gilmore says Homeland Security. Let's go with that. That's correct. After 9/11, President Bush decided that we needed to create a new department, Department of Homeland Security, to protect us from terrorism. Got a new power-up immunity. So if you want immunity, let me know. All right, true or false? Interest groups can influence the federal bureaucracy. So interest groups, like Greenpeace, like the NAACP, other interest groups, can they influence what the federal bureaucracy does? True or false? Gilmore says false. Any other answers? True or false? Let's go with false. Wrong, Ms. Gilmore, wrong. Interest groups can influence the federal bureaucracy. So we'll eventually talk about the job of the bureaucracy, but interest groups oftentimes meet with members of the bureaucracy. And actually, a lot of times people who used to be part of interest groups get appointed to jobs within the bureaucracy. So there is a lot of back and forth between interest groups and the bureaucracy. All right. Which branch of government are all of the following a part of? The cabinet, the vice president, the White House staff. The state branch, executive branch, judicial branch, or legislative branch. This is an easy one. Executive, I think everyone knew that. Executive branch. Very good. Ooh, another power-up. Time freeze. Freeze the timer. We're not really dealing with timers here, I don't think. Uh-oh, redemption question. Reattempt a question you got wrong. Choose wisely. 1, 2, or 3. Let's go with 2. See if you remember this answer. What title do most leaders of the executive departments have? So what was the title? If you're in charge of the Department of State, what is your title? If you're in charge of the Department of Defense, what is your title? Chairman, Secretary, Attorney General, or Ranking Member? What do you guys think? Ms. Gilmore says Attorney General. Anybody else?
Unfortunate scrub today because of weather. That was the one thing we were tracking from the moment we started.
This only works if you guys chat with me, if you guys talk to me. I gotta have more participation.
With a little under 17 minutes to go until
So Ms. Gilmore says Attorney General, and she's wrong. She has a bad memory apparently. It was Secretary. It would be the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of the Treasury, Secretary of State. Alright, I think we're getting close to launch, so let's check in.
If that's when we launch, and a lot of the stuff that we saw today is going to look very similar, but we're just going to try again, cross our fingers, hope for a little bit of weather.
I don't see a countdown timer, but it looks like we're about 5 minutes or so away from launch. So let's just stay here for a bit. See the astronauts? I mean, those are some brave souls. Anytime something gets switched over from public to private, you know, I worry a little bit because, you know, a private entity, remember, is about making money. So hopefully NASA is really hands-on with this SpaceX program. Make sure they don't cut any corners, because those two lives right there are in SpaceX hands, so to speak. So let's hope that nothing goes wrong with this launch.
crew access arm will swing back out.
Let's go on back to the game. I think we got time for another question.
Down the tower at the pad. But
Explain our similarities between the bureaucracy and the judicial branch.
we're going to be moving to our
So what do the bureaucracy and the judicial branch have in common?
earlier in the afternoon. Just going to continue to stand by as this propellant comes off. We heard a call that everything was going nominally or as expected so far. And then once all the propellant's off, we should see Bob and Doug make their way out of Dragon shortly after.
Let's see. Right rules and regulations.
And what you're seeing on your screen is a live view of Bob and
The
Doug.
judicial branch right rules and regulations. Ms. Gilmore just wants to answer.
Propellant to be removed from the vehicle so that it is safe for them to disarm the launch escape system.
So we can choose more than one if we want to. Judicial branch versus the bureaucracy. How are they similar?
So we are going to stay live with you to watch this as they
So Ms. Gilmore wants to go with 1, 3, 4. Leah says B, so can we narrow it down or we just want to go with all of them? So remember, judicial branch are judges. Judges don't make rules. I'm going to take that one off the board. Does the judicial branch interpret laws? Provide a check on the power of the executive branch. So I think we know that that is one. Ms. Pigeon, you're I don't know if it's your connection, but I have noticed you're about you're about 4 or 5 minutes behind us. Power up. Leah wants to use a power up. Let's go with that one. Immunity.
Since we do have an instantaneous launch window today, we weren't able to make it. So we hope for better weather coming up on Saturday. Again, our next launch attempt is going to be at 3:22 p.m. Eastern time, and we'll be able to go through everything. I mean, we saw them get suited up.
All right, let's just go with it. Oh, we got it. They both interpret laws. And I forgot what the other one was. Sorry. All right, let's check back in on the launch.
As John and I said earlier, it was just another great rehearsal today.
I wish they had a countdown clock or something.
Enough practice doing this, so when Saturday comes, or when the day that we can actually launch the vehicle, Bob and Doug and the NASA and SpaceX team are fully prepared with just an extra rehearsal on the belt now.
As we had talked a couple of times,
Just sit back and enjoy the moment.
A lot more complex when we're launching humans. You have some more stringent requirements.
Should be getting underway any time now.
Pad, but in the case of this launch today, we were also looking at whether the entire ascent corridor, as we call it, so basically the entire.
I think maybe we've got about 3 minutes. I got 4:30. I think I heard 4:33 when everyone gets started.
Those are areas that if they have an ascent abort, or basically Dragon firing off of the Falcon 9 while they're flying into space, we have to make sure that conditions are good in the sea states around those areas, just so they're not going to be landing in the middle of a hurricane, which we did have a tropical storm forming right off the coast of South Carolina today, just to help complicate things a little bit.
And people might be asking, if we knew the weather was going to be a little iffy today, why continue to count down? Well, that is the reason why we do all these checks all the way to countdown. In Florida, the weather is, pretty sporadic.
So did they cancel?
A thunderstorm or hurricane will pass through.
Oh, no.
And we could have clear
The
skies
launch is
for
canceled.
a safe launch. So as we continued as scheduled.
Well, I guess
same
safety first,
procedure
right?
again,
Safety
so
first.
just continue to monitor weather all the way down to the last minutes of the count, and we see what happens.
Let's finish up
Today,
the
unfortunately,
game
we did
here.
scrub for weather, but we will attempt again this Saturday on May 30th.
All right.
And Dan, Jesse, a couple of things to add on there.
So they're going to try
right
again
now
Saturday.
We are 11 minutes
So hopefully everything will go
after
well.
the scrub was called. Liquid
All
oxygen.
right, let's
and
finish off
fuel
this
coming off
view.
of the first
In our federal
stage.
government, who does the following
Hard to tell from
things?
the
Writes
view,
the laws,
still
passes the
misty
tax
around
code,
'cause there's lots on
appropriates
board.
money to
But we're,
programs.
between half and a third of each of the fuel and LOX tanks filled on the first stage. So propellant coming out right per plan. The second stage fuel tank is offloading. That's going slower, but it's also a smaller tank. It doesn't take very long to either load it or to offload it. The other thing that we're working on is the high pressure helium spheres as well as the nitrogen spheres for the landing leg system. The pressure will be brought down on those, eventually getting it down low enough to where people can re-enter the pad area. So right now the team is preparing,
Correct, Miss
once they get
Pigeon. Very good.
permission, the SpaceX.
All right, what are government
Ingress
corporations?
technician
What are government
team,
corporations?
Will come back inside the caution
Government
area,
organizations that have
make
to
their
pay
way
as they
up,
go, like the
when
post
conditions
office
are
and
right.
Amtrak.
Open up the hatch
Failed
and
corporations
assist the
taken over by the
astronauts,
government
out
like
of the Dragon.
GM, Chrysler,
I'd
and
like to
major
point out
banks.
that, for those who are
All
wondering
independent agencies
whether
or none of
not
the
having
above.
gone
Which one of
through
those
putting
is?
propellant, pressurization gases on,
Which one of
getting
those
fairly close to
would
launch,
describe a
whether that
government
has done
corporation?
anything to wear out the Falcon 9 or the Dragon? The answer is no. If you can recall, the Falcon 9 is designed for at least 10 flights, and about time we get up to a 10th flight, we'll be doing testing to find that we probably got enough.
A, I see a B, A or B.
So
Can we
this
use
is the very
immunity?
first flight of a
Let's
new
activate
first
it.
stage and a new
There's no
second
timer,
stage.
so
So we've not.
take your time.
We haven't even gotten through the
I
first
see
flight.
2 votes for A.
And
Let's
all
go
of
with
the market
A.
calculations we also take into account.
Very
the fact
good.
that
So
we may scrub
Amtrak,
the launch.
the post office,
So even today's operation, where we
you know, they a lot of times they fund themselves. You've heard in the news that the post office is in danger.
Design and their qualification testing. The other good
President
thing
Trump
is
wants
that
them to
the,
raise the
most
prices on their
stressful part,
stamps and
of
postage
the
so that
flight
they can
for,
make more
the
money.
Falcon 9 on the first stage
So
is the
when you
re-entry.
buy stamps, you
So we didn't
are
even get through that.
funding
So we're
the
sitting here
post
on the
office.
pad.
When you buy a train
It's
ticket
a
on
fairly,
Amtrak, you're helping to fund
straightforward
that government
situation
corporation.
and not stressing on the Falcon
All right,
9.
next question. What
And on
federal
the
law
Dragon
protects
spacecraft,
individuals
with
who
the human
publicly
rating
report
factors to
government
carry through,
misconduct from being
there
punished?
is enough,
This one's been in the
factors
news a
of
lot
safety,
recently.
margins of safety, redundancy, that just having 2 people
So
on
government
board,
workers
closing
who
the
want
hatch,
to
and even pressurizing the propellant system does not
snitch.
eat into the margins of
Offload's
the
continuing
snitch on their
So right now,
bosses
everything's continuing to offload.
for
The
misconduct
automatic sequences that
prevents them
we
from being
use
punished.
routinely, both at the
This
launch
pigeon says the
sites,
Whistleblower
Kennedy
Act.
Space Center, Cape Canaveral, even Vandenberg Air Force
Gilmore
Base,
says
as
yellow,
well as
the
an
Whistleblower
Antosis
Act.
test site for first and second stage.
Very good. The
sequences are
Whistleblower
running,
Act.
Propellant is coming off of
Heard
the
a lot
vehicle,
about that.
per plan. And
couple of years.
We see Bob and Doug.
Which
up in
department of the federal
Dragon
government is
spacecraft.
headed by the
Just
Attorney
waiting,
General?
When we can get up there, open the hatch, and help
The
them.
Attorney
egress
General is in
and
charge
come on
of
back
which
down to
department?
tower. And the other thought I had, Dan and Jesse, is right now we are coming up.
Is it the Department of Energy, Department of Veterans Affairs, Department of Justice,
T0.
Department of Defense?
And I'm wondering 10 minutes from now whether
Pigeon
the
says
weather
justice.
officer would turn around and
It
say, yes,
says
it
defense.
turned good. You just didn't have
We need a
long enough
tie-breaking
window.
vote,
We only
Ms.
have 1
Gilmore.
second, and we need
Red. I hear red.
10
Department
minutes.
of Defense.
So we'll have
Oh,
to
we get
ask
another
offline
chance.
and say, hey,
We'll go with
the,
Pigeon's
weather
answer. Department of
conditions
Justice. The Attorney General is in charge of the
thing I'll
Department
tag
of
on to
Justice.
that Dan was mentioning and Jesse was talking about the launch opportunities.
All right, which executive
Launch window
department
does
deals
move
with
earlier
foreign
on Saturday
diplomatic
a little bit.
issues?
So it just happened to be Orbital Dynamics said today, if you want to go to the International Space Station and you want to launch northeast, which is the
I know I've got 2 English teachers here, so I threw that comment in between foreign and diplomatic. Not sure if it should be there.
Eastern Daylight
But
Saving
foreign
Time.
and diplomatic
You pick
issues.
another day, the T0 moves, It's just luck of the draw.
So
we might have been
Ms.
doing
Pigeon says
this
Department of
at
State.
8 in the morning when we were getting
I gotta
lightning,
vote for
or we could have
Department
been
of
doing
Defense.
it a few hours from now when conditions may have been acceptable.
So we got defense, we got
So,
state.
in the
It
end,
deals with foreign
we can all
diplomatic
look at,
issues.
Isaac
Keyword
Newton
being
and Johannes
diplomatic.
Kepler for orbital dynamics telling us when do we launch, and
Ms.
that's
Gilmore
right in the
says
middle
red.
of a period of bad weather. So there's
So
there's
diplomacy-
the lesson for today.
Remember,
And
diplomacy is
yes.
about peace.
Appreciate that, John. That helps soften the blow.
So if you want to deal with a
Just
foreign
moving
country
past that
peacefully,
T-minus 0 time.
you're going to
But
work
for
for the
anybody,
Department
if you're
of
just now
State.
tuning in,
So the
wondering why
Department of
Falcon
Defense
9
would be
is still
more
sitting there
about
on the pad as we
military
move back to
action.
that T0. We
If
did
you
have
wanted to
a
go
scrub
bomb
for
a
weather
country,
today.
you go through the
Just
Department
not
of
able
Defense,
to clear all
make
of
a
those
peace treaty,
constraints. We
Department of
keep
State.
a very close eye on the weather around the
All right,
pad.
which
and,
part of the
they're
federal
holding
government
up
collects
the
taxes? Is it the CIA, the IRS, FEMA, or the FBI?
Right now, Bob and Doug are still
Inside
inside
Dragon,
of
go ahead for weather.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you some more words on the scrub rationale. Yeah, so we basically scrubbed due to three
Got
rules that were
agreement here, IRS.
both
Very
all
good.
three would have been expected to clear 10 minutes after our T0 time. And those three were natural lightning, the field mills.
All right, true or false? Congress
and
has the
the
power
attachment
to investigate and oversee the bureaucracy. Congress has the power to investigate and oversee the bureaucracy.
Yeah, we copy, Jay. We appreciate that update. We can see some raindrops on the windows, and just figured that
Votes for true. True.
whatever it was too close to the launch pad.
We'll go with
at,
true.
the time we needed
Very
to
good.
not to do
Congress
so.
can
So,
investigate. They can call
we appreciate
members
that
of the
and
bureaucracy,
understand that
members of the
everybody's
departments,
probably,
agencies to come before
a little bit
Congress
bummed out.
and
It's just
testify.
part of the deal. Everybody was ready today, and we appreciate
Assuming
that.
President
And,
Trump allows it.
Chip was great. And we'll do
What is the
again,
fourth branch of
Thursday.
government referring to? So when people talk of the fourth branch of government, what are we
appreciate your
referring to? The
resilience
Electoral
as the
College, the
American
executive branch, the press, or the federal bureaucracy?
We got the easy job. Nothing better than being prime crew on a new spaceship.
What do we think?
Copy that.
We got votes for red.
All right, some great words from Bob and Doug. They're feeling good inside Dragon. They'll be ready
Yes,
to go
Ms. Gilmore, I
when we
was throwing
make our
shade.
next attempt on Saturday. Right now, we're just still waiting for all of the fuel.
We'll
to
go
come
with
off
red,
the
federal
Falcon 9
bureaucracy.
rocket.
That's the name of the
After that,
game.
Fuel roughly 20%, and stage 2 fuel 36%.
All right, our last question of the day. What is the
That's what I
primary
call right there. We're still at a little
responsibility
over 20%
of the
on
bureaucracy?
Fuel, RP1, and LOX, liquid
Is
oxygen
it
on
to
the first
implement and
stage,
enforce the
and then about
laws, to
26%
strike down laws
RP1
using
on
judicial
the
review,
second stage. So again, it takes about
or
40
to
minutes once
write
the process
the
starts.
laws,
So
or
we
none
should
of the
have
above?
right around
What do we
30
think?
minutes or so until all that fuel's off. And then the crew will get to go to disarm the launch escape system. We'll see that crew access arm swing back into place, and they can begin to egress or get out.
Leah
of the
says
Dragon
A,
and
to
spacecraft.
implement and enforce the laws.
And you heard it live, that weather
Ms.
update
Gilmore says
before
A.
we violated. We were just 10 minutes off, unfortunately.
Any other
but again,
votes?
today was an instantaneous launch. And as John explained,
Oh, Ms. Pigeon says none of the
it's
above.
due to the orbital
So we got 2 for
mechanics
blue,
and
1 for
making
red.
Sure that
We'll go
at the
majority.
time we launch,
Majority
it
wins
will
to
allow us
implement
get
and
the
to
space
enforce
station
the law.
on time.
So basically,
and accurately.
Congress writes the laws, then that law has
So
to be
you can see
sent
on your right
to
screen, Bob and Doug are
the executive
patiently waiting.
branch.
They do still have
They
their
they
visors
assign a law
on and
to
still
an
strapped
agency, a
into
department,
their
and then the
seats.
department comes
The
up with
launch
how to put
escape
that law
system
into
is
action.
still armed
And
right
then they can
now
also
as
enforce
we are offloading
those
fuel
rules and regulations
and
once
will
it's
not
been implemented.
disarm until
Uh,
prop offload is
I'm
complete.
going to redo this
And
question.
this is
NASA is
just to
considered
ensure
what type
the
of federal
safety
agency?
of Bob
How
and
fitting?
Doug, and make sure that they can egress safely.
He was paying attention.
from
Lee
the
wants to use the
rocket.
power up. Double jeopardy. Oh. Well, we got to get
Just
it
a
right, or we're
reminder,
going to lose
today,
some
just
points.
this first attempt, we're going to be right back here,
All
looking
right,
like
Leah.
on Saturday for
Leah
attempt
says,
number 2.
put all the money on B.
America's
Good job,
not
Leah.
going anywhere.
Independent
Still
agency.
on the
Very
track to
good.
get Bob and Doug in
You're all
space.
done.
get this crew dragging up to the
that
International Space
was
Station. So it's
a
always
mixed bag of
always
emotions
good.
right
If
there.
you're going to scrub,
So I was
probably
really
rather
hoping
scrub for weather than
to
an
see
issue on either
the
Falcon 9
launch,
or
but
Dragon. And we
safety
weren't tracking
first.
any issues with the flight systems
Looks like they're still
throughout our
hanging out.
countdown today. Everything passed with leak checks on the hatches.
So are we sure
the
it's
crew
not
suits.
delayed?
All the communications working great. All the teams were ready to go. So, as John and I said, always nice to have a little bit more practice, and we'll be right back at it on Saturday.
Thanks for joining me on this
what
little
would this
adventure.
launch be if it wasn't even
And
more exciting
I guess
to try and launch
I will
today?
see
Now
you
we have to push it to
guys
Saturdays.
Really got to build this
next time.
So